Okay, hey there guys. So in this video it's going to be still about the fight control. So this one, it's a bit more on the advanced side from the other ones, right? The others are a bit more basic. This one is where it starts to be a bit fancier. It's stuff that is not inconsistent, it's just harder to learn and it's hard to gain consistency, and it's also very matchup dependent on the champion you're using and the champion you're fighting. Using lights to close the gap is something you can use with a lot of champions, mainly to punish a heavy or a special with your own heavy is the main use for that. Using mediums to punish unpunishable specials. There's not too many specials that require that. And then the next two are more just about play style and no block, bait, and punish. So it's something that some people, it's just something you have to kind of learn and get used to, is you can bait out heavies without them touching your block, which can be very useful for unblockable nodes if you need to throw a heavy for some odd reason with your champion. So with this first clip that I'm going to be bringing up here, it is the champion that kind of made everyone start to really recognize using light attacks in a way that is not to hit the opponent. Tigra was the first champion that really made it so you had to do this. So specifically for Apocalypse, if you don't know the rotation, it's 3 dashbacks and 3 light attacks, and you're able to then hold heavy and punish him straight off of the SP1. So on these first couple special ones, I actually was a bit too cowardly and I didn't use enough light attacks because I thought I didn't have enough time, but I did. I end up getting it where I used the proper amount of light attacks at the end of it before he used the beam. So you want to just try to stay close to him, and then you're trying to use your lights to get back within distance of your heavy, because Tigra specifically has a massive heavy reach. She can cover just so much ground with a lot of her different animations. So you want to use that to your advantage, but even with her large reaching heavy, if you just did the 3 dashbacks and went for the phase, you'd be way too far away from them to punish. But by mixing in the light attacks, you're able to get within reach of the heavy attack, which is allowing you to then chain against the wall, chain your specials on. And that allows you to gain control of a fight with someone like Tigra or any champion that relies on heavy attacks. So I have some others with similar things against other types of champions. So like Ronin here, I did 2 dashbacks. So this also goes into the other thing with the play style of not needlessly dashing back. It's something that I sometimes struggle with, and I'll sometimes needlessly dash back. If you needlessly dash back like that, you're outside of range. Technically, I think there's a dashback pattern you can use that you're still within range, but if you throw 1 light while you're really far back, you're able to get within distance. So here against Angela, you're able to be within distance. This is just using Claire, I just want to have some consistency for this. I'm within distance because I don't dash back on the 3rd hit. Some people, when you watch them play, they dash back on every hit of a special attack. Some people will do that for certain champs specifically, which makes sense, like Thing, because he's unblockable or something like that, right? But against other champs like Angela, that you know they're spacing, you don't really have to. So here's SpiderMan. This is what I was talking about in the other video, is knowing the champion has a large range. But if I do 2 dashbacks, I get too far back. So again, you can't needlessly dash back, even with a champion with a large range. If you needlessly do movements that you don't have to, you'll get punished for it, right? I got parried by Ebony Maw, he hit me a couple times. And then here is with Hulkbusters that sometimes, right, his heavy doesn't reach, so maybe I'll try mixing in a light. It still is just way too far away. But with some champions, like against Ebony Maw, if you go against your own wall, you can double dex his heavy to be able to do it. So you can bounce off of your wall for other things in this game as well, like intercepts, punishing heavy attacks, punishing specials. There's some champions you can't dash in after, but if you're on your own wall, you can. This is against the Void, so this is using your mediums during the opponent's special attack. There's not too many champions that this really applies to, it's mainly Void. So if you are very fast after it, you can get it to the point where you can get in after his special one. But if you're not quite quick enough, you can get parried, you can get hit, and so it's sometimes not a worth it risk. So what people that do is you dash in afterwards to close the distance, allowing you to punish him. So right, I was a bit late on going in, I wasn't instantaneously on it, so you get punished. So it's not, and Magneto is another one that you can do it against. So again, this is what I was saying, they're harder to pull off. I don't use this technique too often For Void, I'm just trying to be quick enough to punish, and for Magneto, I just tend to not punish. But it's a skill that you should learn, and I should get better at it. But like with Magneto here, I was figuring out that if I'm not at a distance when he starts his SP3, if I use a light at the middle of it, I stay within distance for my dash. If you notice, even though I thought I was close enough, I didn't use a light, so I get parried, and there I was at a similar distance, but I use a light, but I'm able to get in time for Magneto's special one there. So it's not that this tech, the dashing in medium, is inconsistent, it's just I don't use that against specifically Magneto too often. It's something I should probably get better at, but it's just not something I use too often. So maybe I'll try to brush up on that skill some, but you can also do that where you dash in and then you block. You lose some of the distance that you're trying to recover, but it keeps you within usually a good enough distance. I just wanted to show some of the fails as well, because it's not the easiest technique to pull off. This is one, though, that is actually pretty easy to pull off, even though I failed the dex on the first one. So, Gillian 99, you cannot really consistently punish her special one if you do a double dex. If you dex the first part and then you dex the beam, you're really not going to be able to punish her special one. But if you use a medium, you're able to do what you're doing against Void, is you get inside her range, and then you're able to recover pretty quickly. It can also depend on the champion you're using if they have a fast enough recovery time. So here with Doom, Corvus is not a champion, again, that you want to be trying to punish a special one. It's very inconsistent, and with Corvus with his crits and modified damage on defense, it's not something you want to try to be doing. There, I was trying to do the medium to get in, but I was finding I was a little bit too slow to do it. And there I just took one to the block, or to the face, because of reasons. So, but what I was able to find was that if I use a light attack instead of a medium attack, I'm able to get in. So right, like, he's usually having his block up if I'm punishing him like that. By using the light, I maintain the distance that he tries to create. So I show that one a little bit more in this clip. I'm just trying to get him to throw his specials. So I use a light, so I don't move as far back. And I do it again, use the light, block it. With the block, because of the recoil I get from blocking, I get pushed too far back. So I believe it has to be dex, light, dex. And like there, right, again, I get hit by it. So like, some of these things are not the easiest to pull off. You have to have fast thumbs, fast reactions, like, you can't be just doing this, like, too haphazardly usually. And even something like that, like, I was actually getting kind of consistent at that Corvus one, but I still probably wouldn't use it in war. So this is baiting without using without using your block. So I wanted to start it on a champion that is very heavy friendly, like Mysterio. What it is you usually want to, you can do it mid-combo, or you can do it against their block. You want to use like 2 to 3 hits into their block or into their face, and then you want to hold your block, and if you see them going in at you, because right, let's just assume they're unblockable for some reason, you need to pull back very quickly. So with Mysterio, I just wanted to do it because he's known for being a very heavy friendly champion. So I wanted to show it against him to show just the general idea of it. It's you're holding block just outside of their reach, but maybe where they feel their heavy is within reach. Surfer is another champion that is actually fairly heavy friendly. He was, I would say, like, Mysterio is very high on heavy friendly. Silver Surfer is like medium to high for heavy friendly. Champions, if you notice, have different AIs, so it can depend a lot. And with champions like Surfer specifically, with a double hit at the end, you're able to get a fair bit of block bait time in at the double spin on his tail. And so if you notice, I go and I do a couple hits, and I hold block, or I hit his block a couple times, and I hold block. So obviously Nick Fury can go unblockable and stun immune, so being able to, and he can hit hard through block with his Fury and his second life, so being able to bait out a heavy without hitting you can be very, very helpful in a lot of situations if you need to use a heavy to deal your damage, or there's like a heavy resist node, or something like that. So Nick Fury's, again, maybe on like the medium scale for being willing to throw heavies, which is nice because, as I said, he can go stun immune. But right, so you kind of go in, you want to use like 1 or 2 to 3 blocked hits, I would say, and then you want to just grab your block on, you want to hold, and when you see them trying to hit you, you have to kind of dex. So right, it's a balance. It's balancing the play style of trying to be aggressive and trying to be defensive. You can't, right, and that's the two play style ones that I put there, is minimizing your unneeded dexing. So dexing is very, very good in this game. It keeps you alive, right? But if you're dashing back when you don't need to, which is a bad habit that I had for a while, I still have it a little bit sometimes if I'm feeling scared for some reason in a fight, is I'll start dashing back when I don't need to, and I'll start to lose ground on the map. I'll start to dex when I shouldn't be, and so I dex too early and they clip me mid dash back, stuff like that. And then that means I'm playing way too defensive, so you need to pay attention of balancing your aggression and your defense. If you're in a really hard fight that has like a ton of complicated nodes, you need to be balancing, switching back and forth, right? But if you're in like Cav Q Cosmic, you're just gonna go in with CGR or Hercules and you're just gonna smash their face-ins, right? But if you're playing maybe like Quake, you're playing in theory very defensively. You're against your wall, you're dexing and you're evading. You're not doing anything aggressive. Or a champion like Kingpin. He's a very good champion to be able to balance because you can heal yourself up if you just dex and you hit their block some, right? Because you have the constant willpower healing. So he's a good champion to balance your aggression and your defense because he has his unstoppable, so you can just go really ham. But once you've taken too much damage, you can just kind of move back, you can dex around, hit their block some, and just chill out while you heal up. So that kind of goes over most of this. I hope that made some sense. I don't know if there will be too many more videos in this series specifically, but I'm going to try to keep doing some gameplay type guides. I don't feel like people do these as much anymore, and I was really enjoying making them. I hope this helps you trying to like get the idea of how to control a fight, how to like have a flow about your fight. It's something that for me I try to focus on a lot when I'm fighting, especially like harder fights or stressful fights like Alliance War. I notice I'll be getting like panicky and I'm like, okay, do something to regain the control. Move them back on the map. Use an SP3 if you're Doctor Doom, something like that, right? Figure out the way to gain control back if you've lost it. Some good ways are some of the things we've went over before, like hitting their block to regain the screen, using an intercept so that way they don't come onto you too hard, using the no block heavy bait and punish if they just sometimes just throw a heavy, and that gives you a lot of ground. Using a light to close the gap on a special attack, that can be a great way to regain some of the ground you're losing. So these are all techniques that are like important to start to learn. Like, I never play Tigra, but I have a decent understanding of how to do the lights to close the distance because of other champions like Archangel or Hulkbuster that I enjoy playing have a shorter heavy reach, so I wanted to learn how to get closer to the opponents. Or using the mediums to punish off to like Void and Magneto. It's hard to learn, but if you get really consistent at it, it can make questing a lot cheaper because you don't have to take as many blocked hits because you're actually able to punish their specials. Learning to like bounce against your own wall is another thing that I did show a little bit of this video. I didn't really like highlight it here because it's not something too important, but being able to bounce against your wall is also really important in my opinion, right? With the way I was able to counter a heavy that I wouldn't have been able to counter previously. You can use it in a lot of different ways to like intercept and punish them in different ways. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it clarifies some of the gameplay things that you'll see players in just higher levels be doing. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Have a good one. Bye.